Hey, good morning, guys. Another day, here we go. So, some things to talk about today. I'm going to try and keep this video short because the last few videos have gotten a little longer and longer, and it's not really my goal. Really trying to keep them around 12, 13 minutes, 11 minutes maybe. So, bear with me, I'm going to try and go through this pretty quickly. As far as the news today, I'm just going to point out a link I'm sharing with you about some bioluminescent plankton. So Southern California has been making the rounds on social media lately with glowing waters, and there's a video of some dolphins going through the waters, and as they go through the waters, the waters are lighting up with a blue glow. And what that is, it's bioluminescent plankton. It's tiny little microorganisms that, as they are disturbed, they light up light up with a blue glow. During the daytime, they're not so pretty. It's kind of like a murky red color, but once it's nighttime, they light up, and it's thought that that's a way of them alerting other organisms in the area that, hey, there's a problem here, there's a disturbance. It might also be a way of letting a secondary predator know, hey, there's somebody here, maybe you want to come over and eat them for me. I don't know. Well, so check out the link if you like. That's interesting stuff. All right, what we're going to talk about today's lesson is how did the life improve for blacks during Reconstruction. There's three people we're going to talk about. First one is the Scalawags, the Carpetbaggers, and then the Sharecroppers. All right, actually we'll start with Carpetbaggers. Carpetbaggers were northerners that came to the South during Reconstruction. They were looking up for opportunities, and there were a lot of opportunities. We were rebuilding the South in a constructive sense, but also in a political and social and economic sense. So what these carpetbaggers did, and they were called carpetbaggers because they were bringing a bag that was like made out of carpet frequently. That was how they made their luggage in a lot of cases, and they would travel down to the South, and they were, of course, in support of Reconstruction. They would find an opportunity for a business that hadn't been built there yet, or had maybe been decimated with the destruction of the Civil War. So they would find a new business opportunity. They would get into politics. They would rise up with some power in that regard. And in a lot of ways, they were there for their altruistic reasons. They really believed in the cause, and they really wanted to help bring up the South. But let's be honest, they had some personal gain involved also. They were trying to work out what could be improved and how could they make money off of that. So they brought a lot of capital to the South, and that the capital is an economic term. You'll learn more about this in high school with economics, but capital can be money, just simply bringing money down that can be spent on things, but then there's other resources like people and machinery and knowledge that's also capital, but that was something that they brought to the South. They weren't particularly appreciated by the Southern elite planter class because they were bringing change to the South, and in a lot of political cartoons from the South, they were looked upon as invaders, as greedy invaders that were taking advantage of a tough situation. But like I said, they did bring improvements to the South that helped blacks after the Civil War. The next group we're going to talk about is the Scalawags. Scalawags, also another group that the Southern planter class did not appreciate. They really didn't like the Scalawags. The Scalawags were people that were Southerners, people that were in the South that were in favor of Reconstruction, that they believed in the principles of abolition and equal rights, and they didn't like the fact that you had the North telling the South what to do, and they really wanted. The Scalawags were in favor of the North telling the South what to do, but the reason why the Scalawags were hated so much was because they were Southerners in the first place. They were Southerners that approved of all of these changes, and for that they were viewed as traitors, like you were going against the beliefs of the South and you don't belong here. And Scalawags were people that rose up in power in the South during the time of Reconstruction. A lot of them made their way into legislatures in the South and became part of the lawmaking body that was operating in southern states at the time. Finally, we're going to talk about the sharecroppers. Sharecroppers were people that were sharing their crop with someone else. I got sitting down here next to my tomato plant. We've got a little crop of our own going this year. Small effort. We bought the seeds, we bought the soil. Actually, we had the soil, but we amended the soil. And these are the little investments that you put into making a crop. We had the land. That's something that we started with. But sharecroppers would be people that didn't have land. And sharecroppers were people, they could have been freedmen, they could have been former slaves, or they could have been poor white people that did not have money to buy their own land. And so they would use somebody else's land. And this is how the deal worked. The landowner says, you can use my land. I'll even give you some cotton seeds to start with and some tools to start with. And then at the end of the year, once you get your crop and you sell your crop, you give me half of your earnings from that crop. That sounds like a pretty good deal, right? I mean, they start you off. You don't need to have anything to start off with. You go through the year, and at the end of the year, maybe you can save up a little bit of money, and maybe a year, maybe two, you're able to buy your own piece of land and be independent. That's the dream. That's not how it worked out, though. It was something that it worked out to being about as bad as slavery. It was economic slavery, and this is how it worked. So as you go through the year, you have to pay for your own food and clothing and other supplies that your family needs throughout the year. If a tool broke, you're going to need to buy a new one, and that would be something that you, at the end of the year, you'd have to deduct your expenses from your income. Okay, so that's one small thing. So maybe you have a little bit less to spend at the end of the year, a little bit less of your savings. But then the problem with saving money when you're a farmer is that markets change and weather changes, and what sells for one price one year will sell for a different price the next year. Let's say you have a year with good weather and the crops are growing really, really well, and then there becomes a blight or some pests or something, and then your crop is decimated and you have very little crop to sell, and you don't make very much money because you can't sell very much of it. That's one thing that can happen. You could have a year where it's good weather and it's a good crop and you have a lot of cotton to sell, and everybody else had a good year and everybody else has a lot of cotton to sell, so all the prices go down, and then when you sell your crop, you don't make very much money. And then of course you have to split that with your landowner. Or maybe it's just a bad year all around and you don't make very much cotton, and so you have to sell your cotton, but because you didn't have much to sell, you don't make very much money. So there were a lot of reasons why selling at the end of the year and trying to save what you had left you with nothing. In fact, at the end of the year, if you deduct your expenses and your expenses outweighed any of your income, then you'd have to make a deal with your landowner that, all right, so the next year's crop, I'll give you half of that plus what I owed you from this year. And that would build up and build up and build up to the point that you would always be in debt to your landowner, and you would be in a form of economic slavery. And this is something that we're going to see also in the North when we talk about industrialism and the factory system and the company store. There are a lot of situations in the North that had a similar situation with factories, where the workers would be stuck in a situation where they could never pay off their debts to their employer, and they would have to take whatever their employer gave them and would always be stuck in a vicious cycle. So that's all I have for you today. Go ahead and log into Schoology, get your attendance taken, keep working on that Reconstruction packet. That is due on Friday, but I will continue to lecture about the different points that come up in it throughout the end of next week also. So hope you guys are having a good day. Stay safe, stay healthy. Talk to you soon.